Wir sehen, der Arien und na, der Juden. Der Juden. Und das trifft das Sauerkraut mit der Juden. Und der Leberwurst mit der Juden. Der Flützensack dahinter mit der Juden. Der Flütensack der Klärten. Das Strängelichen mit der Hultensack der Fläten. Und der Blätzensack der Helden. Besieg! Besieg! Der Juden. Der Juden.
His Excellency has just referred to the Jewish people.
October 13th, 1991. At 9:15 yesterday morning, our bomb went off in the FBI's National Headquarters building. The damage is immense. Meanwhile, George and Henry were out stealing a truck. Oh good. When the driver, a Negro, opened the back of the truck and stepped inside, Henry hopped in after him and dispatched him swiftly and silently with his knife. They are certain that no one on the street noticed a thing. As we drove by the building, however, we saw that the basement entrance was open and no one was in sight. We signalled Henry and kept going for another 7 or 8 blocks until we found a good spot to park. Then we began walking back slowly, keeping an eye on our watches. We were still 2 blocks away when the pavement shuddered violently under our feet. An instant later, the blast wave hit us. A deafening ka-whoomp, followed by an enormous roaring crashing sound, accentuated by the higher pitched noise of shattering glass all around us.
I just imagine it done in the Batman style.
Come on!
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that that's the big explosion that we've
I know, yeah, like this
it
is
went ka-whoomp.
the fact, again, it's like the only reason that sequence has any significance is just purely because of the fact, obviously, that someone actually imitated it in real life and did that for real. And that was it, the big fucking opening salvo in the war against the system.
Ka-whoomp.
We were walking away down the pavement and then it went ka-whoomp. Then I went into the shower and kissed a woman.
Yeah, I kissed the lady once.
Kissed a lady for the first time. And it was alright. It did little to Sal's deep ache inside my pathetic little heart. It's insane to think that someone could be inspired by this dreary, droning, boring mess.
I was going to say, it's so hard to read it out loud, especially in places like this, because it's like there's no real flow to it. No. It just doesn't feel like it's telling a story.
Easily the hardest thing we've ever had to read, like physically, emotionally. It's like so like withering and just the only thing that would pull you forward to read past the first like page of this is just pure racism. That's it. Like the excitement of
murdering people, essentially.
It's this is so sordid and pathetic. Yeah, really is quite sad.
The plate glass windows in the store beside us and dozens of others that we could see along the street were blown to splinters. A glittering and deadly rain of glass shards continued to fall into the street from the upper stories of nearby buildings for a few seconds as a jet black column of smoke shot straight up into the sky ahead of us. We ran the final 2 blocks and were dismayed to see what, at first glance, appeared to be an entirely intact FBI headquarters. Dozens of people were scurrying around the freight entrance to the central courtyard. Many were bleeding profusely from cuts, and all had expressions of shock or dazed disbelief on their faces. The scene in the courtyard was one of utter devastation. The whole Pennsylvania Avenue wing of the building, as we could then see, had collapsed. A huge gaping hole yawned in the courtyard pavement just beyond the rubble of collapsed masonry. Overturned trucks and automobiles, smashed office furniture and building rubble were strewn widely about, and so were the bodies of a shockingly large number of victims. We had to wade through a waist-deep sea of paper which had spilled out of a huge jumble of file cabinets to our right, perhaps 1,000 of them. It looked like they had slid en masse into the courtyard from one of the upper stories of the collapsed wing, and now there was a tangled heap of smashed and burst cabinets 20 feet high and 80 to 100 feet long, interspersed with their disgorged contents, which had spread out beyond the heap until most of the courtyard was covered with paper. what the fuck is
What
this?
is going on?
What,
This
like,
is
what
so
the fuck?
weird.
Like, this is the most, like, pathetic, underwhelming, like,
Yeah.
this explosion is kind of a perfect summation of what this book has
Yeah.
been. It's like, okay, so it's a big explosion, so that's going to be a big thing.
Like, yeah, exactly.
And then you
It's
get
just
to it, and it's like, the explosion happens while the point of view character is literally 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
And so you don't
And
actually
now he's
see it, and
spending
now
all
he's
his
just
time
talking
describing
about...
the amount of
Yeah.
paper that's on the floor.
He's literally talking about the fucking filing system
yeah.
being destroyed.
Yeah.
Ah, we've ruined their filing system.
The way his brain seems
Yeah.
to operate is so strange, and I guess it speaks to his complete emotional disconnect from humanity.
It's so funny because, like, reading it now, that woman who said to him, like, who just said to his face that it was rubbish. Fair play to her.
like, what was
yeah.
she supposed to say? Yeah, it's sort of strange because I feel like, in a way, I'm struggling to find anything sort of too profound to say about it. Because it's just so paltry and sad.
Yeah.
Trying to get through.
It's almost like it was written by a sociopath.
Yeah,
You take almost. Yeah. If Patrick Bateman was real and had written those books himself, all of the intense and exciting sequences wouldn't be in there because it'd all just be him talking about his fucking time.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? That's
all he'd ever
all
be doing
it
is
would be.
dwelling on
Yeah.
the details that are important to him.
Yeah.
And so you're caught, between like occasionally it trying to obviously teach people how to set up fucking terrorist cells in America, whilst also trying to like clearly tell this like affecting story of one small man's part in this glorious white supremacist revolution. But yeah, the glue that holds all that together is just such dreary, mindless, non-committal, uninteresting, mundane crap. We always say it, but yeah, I really do think we've continued the trend somehow.
Yeah.
This is absolutely the worst we've ever read.
So I suppose next we're going to have to read fucking Atlas.
Yeah,
Shrugged, wouldn't we?
just to outdo this.
As we gaped with a mixture of horror and elation at the devastation, Henry's head suddenly...
He's gaping with elation.
He's gaping with horrified elation. As we gaped with a mixture of horror and elation at the devastation, Henry's head suddenly appeared a few feet away.
Bouncing. It's obviously caught in the explosion.
There was a sheet of paper, it was a massive paper cut. It's like The Omen, but with a big sheet of printer paper. He was climbing out of a crevice in the mountain of smashed file cabinets.
What is this? What is this obsession with paper and filing cabinets?
Because it's what he knows.
Yeah, you just blew up hundreds of people.
You're talking about
all that you can
filing.
see is just filing cabinets everywhere.
He quickly explained that everything had gone so smoothly in the basement that he had decided to wait in the area for the blast.
Everything had gone so smoothly in the basement that he blew himself up. That's how well things were going. Yeah. Oh no, it was I meant to blow myself up. It was a tactic to inspire fear in the hearts of men. Sure thing.
He had a hooked up set of delivery documents to hand to anyone who questioned him, but no one did. Hooked up.
Hooked up.
He walked past the inattentive black guard, back up the ramp.
Do you think maybe this guard was perhaps bored?
I think he was
Might have been bored.
and sweaty.
Yeah, bored, sweaty, greasy.
He waited by a public phone booth a block away until 1 minute before the explosion was due, then placed a call to the newsroom of the Washington Post. His brief message was, 3 weeks ago, you and yours killed Carl Hodges in Chicago. We are now settling the score with your pals in the political police. Soon we'll settle the score with you and all other traitors. White America shall live.
Oh, how inspirational.
Yeah, and that should rattle their cage enough to provoke a few good headlines and editorials.
The fact that, like, obviously he just never actually did anything
Yeah,
well.
I can really see now why he never did anything.
Yeah, and then someone did do something, and what did you achieve?
Even by your own admission,
Yeah.
it achieves nothing.
Like, the thing that he's claiming here is going to make this huge thing.
Ooh.
Someone did it, and then he comes out and goes, that was fucking useless and rubbish, what was the point of that? That'll never work. Oh, we got like hundreds more pages of this shit.
He pointed to a few curls of lighter greyish smoke which were beginning to rise from the tangle of smashed file cabinets from which he had just emerged, and then he flashed a quick grin as he dropped his cigarette lighter back into his pocket. Henry is a one-man army. Henry is a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
As we turned to leave, I heard a moan and looked down to see a girl, about 20 years old, half under a steel door and other debris. Her pretty face was smudged and scraped, and she seemed to be only half conscious. I lifted the door off her and saw that one leg was crumpled under her, badly broken, and blood was spurting from a deep gash in her thigh. I quickly removed the cloth belt from her dress and used it to make a tourniquet. I love that he doesn't use a piece of his own clothing, he just rips on her clothing. That's hilarious. I then tore off a portion of her dress and folded it into a compress, which I held against the cut in her leg while George removed his shoelaces and used them to tie the compress in place. They're like, always like, yeah, what about the other fucking 700 people you've killed? Yeah. You fucking pieces of shit.
The Jewish guy's throat you slashed. Like all these people.
The Negro
who you just
dispatched with a knife.
Yeah, for no reason.
Yeah, you couldn't have, I don't know, just thrown him out of the van and stolen the van.
No, Joe, because you see, they had hundreds of people to kill.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't risk him putting a stop to that.
Not 20 feet away, another woman lay motionless, her face covered with blood and a gaping wound in the side of her head. A horrible sight, which I can still see vividly every time I close my eyes.
Oh, the real victim in all this.
You're
the bombers are the real victims.
Like, you know what I mean? I still see the fucking gaping hole I left in that woman's head every time I close my eyes.
Yeah, I bet you still see it every night, mate.
It's a heavy burden of responsibility for us to bear, since most of the victims of our bomb were only pawns who were no more committed to the sick philosophy or the racially destructive goals of the system than we are. But there is no way we can destroy the system without hurting many thousands of innocent people. No way. But the fact that it's like, you know, oh, this was a heavy burden, but we had to do it because there are blacks.
Yeah. Because black people.
That's your reasoning. That's your reasoning. Not because we want to free fucking humanity from this yoke of oppression.
Like he keeps talking about the tyranny and all this shit.
Like, you're the tyrant.
By which he means black people can vote.
Yeah.
Like the precise opposite of tyranny.
If we don't cut this cancer out of our living flesh, our whole race will die.
You think as well like how pervasive that rhetoric has become.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, feminism is cancer.
Yeah.
Leftism is cancer. And what do you do to cancer? You know, this is, and it's like, and here we have him. Mm-hmm. Here it is, folks.
Yeah.
Every time you hear these people say it, they're aping this. Yeah. Former member of the American Nazi Party, founder of the National Alliance, chief inspiration for the Oklahoma City bombing. This is the point, you know, is the through line from this through all the others that we've covered. Yeah. And this is what they want. Yeah. Every time Tucker Carlson opens his mouth, he's basically parroting this guy fucking
same for Ben Shapiro and all the rest of them.
Yeah. You think of like your Matt Walshes.
Yeah. Oh, God.
You know, they're getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah. And the things that they're demanding from their followers, they're getting more and more vocal and more explicit about. And still, these people are just endlessly funded, endlessly invited on these shows, endlessly treated with respect, endlessly treated as thoughtful, introspective, philosophical people whose ideas we really need to consider. But they're full of shit. Yeah. They're liars. This is what they want to do. They want to take power with force. Like I say, I'm dreading where we're going to go in this book once we get to the point where, you know, they're winning and they take over. Because if he's telling people to build bombs and slit people's throats, like imagine what he's going to say when, and once you get in power, here's how you sort them all out.
And is that not a key to the whole problem? The corruption of our people by the Jewish liberal democratic equalitarian plague which afflicts us, more clearly manifested in our soft-mindedness, our unwillingness to recognise the harder realities of life than in anything else. Wow.
Like you said, that the leaps that he makes, the way it's like, he's not even attempting to convince you that he's right. Like, he is completely presupposing that you are a card-carrying member of the Nazi Party. Like, is it that fucking man of science, Mr. William Luther Pierce, can't even present one piece of evidence that he's correct? Like, hasn't even tried. What an absolute fucking prick.
Liberalism is an essentially feminine, submissive worldview. This sounds like you've written it, it really does. Perhaps a better adjective than feminine is infantile, coming from this. Yeah. It is the worldview of men who do not have the moral toughness, the spiritual strength to stand up and do single combat with life. Who cannot...
Oh my God!
Who cannot adjust to the reality that the world is not a huge pink and blue padded nursery in which the lions lie down with the lambs and everyone lives happily ever after. It was your lot who started talking about lions lying down with lambs.
I mean, the fact that he was banging on about using their ideology as
the faith and
shield and all this shit. And now he's just like, fuck all that fucking Christian bollocks. Kurt did the same thing.
Yes, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, exact same thing. Again, roughly exactly this point in the story.
Liberalism is an essentially feminine, submissive worldview. Perhaps a better adjective than feminine is infantile. It's like you're writing a self-insert fantasy fulfillment book in which you blow up buildings and take over the country.
And finally get to kiss a woman.
Finally get to see lady boobs.
Like, as well, also the way that in his mind there's feminine, and then the more extreme version of femininity is childishness. The pokey evolution of women is from woman to child. Interesting way of looking at things.
Yeah, it's just really surprising that he was surrounded by people. That is an alien, essentially oriental approach to life. The worldview of slaves rather than of free men of the West.
What?
That's one of the most insane loads of shit I've ever read in my entire life.
What? Ironically, like, he's talking about it's not some blue and pink nursery or whatever he said. Obviously, what he's actually saying is that, well, if I'm white, I should just be given all things, and I should have all things go my way.
And also, I should be a big tough rugged boy.
And that I should act like that's because of my proud, rugged survivalist genes. But like, also, everybody else just should be my slave and do everything for me. It's like, mate, that's the padded fucking
nursery. Exactly.
What are you talking about, you fucking loser?
Decade after decade, the race problem in America has become worse, but the majority of those who wanted a solution, who wanted to preserve a white America, were never able to screw up the courage to look the obvious solution in the face.
I'm glad we're finally going to start hearing what his wonderful solution is. Have I heard that sort of talk before?
All the liberals and the Jews had to do was begin screeching about inhumanity or injustice or genocide, and most of our people...
I gotta be honest, you bringing up the word genocide here right now leads me to believe that might be where we're headed. Maybe they weren't wrong to bring that word into the conversation, William.
Because there was never a way to solve the race problem which would be fair to everybody, or which everyone concerned could be politely persuaded into accepting without any fuss or unpleasantness. And the same has been true of the Jewish problem, and the immigration problem, and the overpopulation problem, and the eugenics problem, and 1,000 related problems.
Okay.
That's a doozy, isn't it?
Where do you start with that one?
Yeah, obviously all of it is fucking vile, but because there never was a way in which everyone concerned could be politely persuaded into accepting without fuss or unpleasantness, and it's like, there is, just stop being a piece of shit.
People largely have accepted it. That's your point. His point is that the reason it's not being addressed how I want it to be addressed is because everyone else is just getting on with it, and it isn't a problem to them. But I think it is a problem, so genocide's the only answer. Your whole argument is based on the idea that nobody else has a problem with it. They're all just fine going along with it. So if the friction isn't between white people and black people writ large, then where is it coming from? Well, it seems to be coming from the people blowing up buildings and slaying people's throats.
It's like the race problem. It's like the race problem is you lot being racist.
That's entirely within your head. Like the fact that he just randomly brings up the word genocide as being thrown at him, and then he's just like, we need to really solve this eugenics problem. I can see the race problem here, but it's not the black people. It's the fella ranting about eugenics and genocide. Gotta be pretty honest with you on that one, mate.
Business has certainly picked up, hasn't it? Yes, the inability to face reality and make difficult decisions. Like the fact that our government today constantly... We're making tough decisions. It's like, again, that's just a Nazi fucking excuse, a cover.
Oh, it's really tough.
We made the tough decision to kill all of those people that I've been ranting about killing for decades.
I really wanted to kill for ages. Yeah, it's like what they mean is something that won't actually benefit anyone and that has really viscerally upset everyone who's witnessed it. They just pass it off as a tough decision, again, to feed into this myth of the rugged individualist white man
that's essentially
rises above the emotional approach to, like morality and living with other fucking human beings. Keeping a cool head at all times as I slit someone's throat mentality. We've been on this planet for millions of years, and within hundreds, we've destroyed the entire ecology of this planet. And they still, we're making the tough decisions, you're just not able to. No, you have a psychological and moral deficiency. You are the problem. You are the cancer.
It is a terrible, terrible task we have before us. And it is already clear that the controlled media intend to convince the public that what we are doing is terrible. They are deliberately emphasising the suffering we have caused by interspersing gory close-ups of the victims with tearful interviews with their relatives.
Yeah, why would they do that? What an underhanded tactic.
Mate, if you don't want to be seen as being bad for murdering innocent people, there's a really fucking nifty way of avoiding that.
You do know you could fix your own problems.
I'd say
I love the whole individuality, personal responsibility shit.
Except when it comes to reality.
None of them want to take responsibility for the fact that their ideology is dog shit, it's wrong, it's evil, and it creates nothing but suffering for others and even themselves by his own admission. And he won't even just say, do you know what, I need to take the steps to fix myself. Men will literally blow up the FBI building rather than go to therapy.
Interviewers are asking leading questions like, what kind of inhuman beast do you think could have done something like this to your daughter? They have clearly made the decision to portray the bombing of the FBI building as the atrocity of the century. And indeed, it is an act of unprecedented magnitude. All the bombings, arsons and assassinations carried out by the left in this country have been rather small time in comparison. Well, that's nice. That's nice to hear someone admit that.
He's just bragging.
Yeah. We're much worse than the left.
They've all been sissified by the Jews. Force feminized by Judaism.
This is insane.
Sorry, can you stop talking about it, please? Because that's actually a really sore point for me. All those hundreds of people I blew to pieces.
Yeah, when I murdered your daughter,
that was actually really upset me. So do you mind not talking about it?
I was really upset. That put me off my food for a good few hours.
Yeah. I almost couldn't eat my dinner.
There was a gang of armed revolutionary Negroes who called themselves Black Panthers. Every time they had a shootout with the police, the press and TV people had their tearful interviews with the families of the black gang members who got killed, not with the cops' widows. And when a negress who belonged to the Communist Party helped plan a courtroom shootout and even supplied the shotgun with which a judge was murdered, the press formed a cheering section at her trial and tried to make a folk hero out of her.
Now he's like, why won't they show the families of the dead policemen who were... You're just going on about how dare they show the families of the dead FBI agents I just blew up because it's really underhanded and disgusting. They should be talking about my ideological position. But when they do it about black people, they should be showing the dead police officers' photos.
They should do the thing that they've just done to me, and I am absolutely fucking outraged by. They should do that to everyone else.
It should be applied only
I should be treated differently. That's the epitome of thinking like a child.
Yeah, well, I think like what it comes to when it comes to like the comparison between like the Black Panthers and white supremacists is just the simple fact that the Black Panthers have even a marginally fucking legitimate concern. The history of black people in America, he's going to completely disregard that. Because again, in his mind, that was just treatment. They have no right to complain because it's how they deserve to be treated. But he has to be treated with kid gloves and be given everything he wants because he's a white man demanding things. So you must do that.
Exactly.
But when a black person tries to fight for their freedom,
they should
the thing he says he's doing and therefore justifies basically any act. No, if a black person is legitimately doing that, then it doesn't matter, because it can't be legitimate.
Yeah, because they're black.
Yeah.
The difference between the Black Panthers and white supremacists is that the Black Panthers were right.
Yeah. Also, the fact that he's going to then suddenly flip the script, and now he thinks that the FBI are the good guys versus the Black Panthers. It's like COINTELPRO, J. Edgar Hoover, as he made allusions to before, like the good old days of the FBI. By which he means back when they were infiltrating black civil rights movements and assassinating their leaders. Because for him, him, it's absolutely permissible to do that, and it is absolutely desirable
Permissible,
to do that when it's against an actual struggle for freedom. But when it's policing his attempts to buy fertilizer to make bombs so he can blow up, by his own admission, innocent, unrelated people, then it's a crime against humanity that must be fought with every fibre of our white will. It's fucking pathetic, and he can't even hide it.
No.
Again, just like with Kurt and the others, they just put it all right next to each other in the same
exactly.
paragraph.
It's like I literally said it, and in a couple of paragraphs,
and he did.
and like literally, I think it was probably the next paragraph. Well, as Henry warned the Washington Post yesterday, we will soon be settling that score. One day we will have a truly American press in this country, but a lot of editors' throats will have to be cut first. October 16. I'm back with my old friends in Unit 2. These words are being written by lantern light in the place they fixed up in the loft of their barn for Catherine and me. A bit chilly and primitive, but at least we have complete privacy. This is the first time we've had a whole night together by ourselves. Oh, good.
Yeah, I gotta say, I love the real rich, romantic character development that's happened between these two.
I don't even know what Catherine looks like. I don't know anything about her personality. I don't know what he
nothing to say about
feels
her.
about. Yeah, it's like if it were a diary, surely he'd be writing, oh my god, me and Catherine are getting together, oh she's like this and she's like that. But there's none of it, because that's not the point.
And because he cannot see women that way.
No.
It just reminds me of Futurama, you know. Tell my wife hello.
Your neutralness. It's a beige alert. If I don't survive, tell my wife hello.
Just this completely grey man who just has absolutely no feeling or warmth or regard for anything.
Actually, we didn't come here for a romp in the hay, but to pick up a load of munitions.
Oh, that's even more romantic.
Yeah.
Like a fucking Nazi.
Cases of fuses for bombs, mines, grenades, etc. And a case of thermite grenades. And lots of other odds and ends. And there's even a 500-pound general purpose bomb. I love a general purpose bomb.
Yeah, the things you can do with a general purpose bomb.
Especially a 500-pounder.
Yeah.
You know, you can explode it.
Just imagine a big, like, Acme.
Yeah.
It's
It's fucking Tom Jones. General purpose bomb.
General purpose bomb. General purpose bomb. You can give it to me. General purpose bomb. You're my general purpose bomb. But baby, you can turn me on.
Catherine and I are both very happy we could make this trip together, but the circumstances are troubling. Because I love that, how it's like, it goes from, oh, it's the first night we get to spend together by ourselves. Anyway, a load of bombs and that.
Yeah, anyway, to the more important details. This is the pattern, this is what he does. Anytime he almost accidentally has character development, he just immediately curtails it in order to just list a bunch of stuff, or tell you a bunch of nerdy details to help you plan a Nazi over America.
George first asked Henry and me to go, but Catherine objected. She complained that she had not yet been given a chance to participate in the activities of our unit and, in fact, had hardly been outside our 2 hideouts during the last month.
Hey, you get to write up the minutes of the meeting and do makeup. What could you possibly want?
She had no intention, she said, of being nothing but a cook and housekeeper for the rest of us. Well, you've probably joined the wrong group.
I have some terrible news for you.
You might want to sit down, Catherine. Fucking hell. We were all under a bit of tension following the big bombing.
I mean, every once in a while, he does still bring out a real fucking stupidity of the writing at times. It is funny.
This is the most influential right-wing novel ever written.
Dangerous.
Most dangerous book known to man.
Ever read.
We were all under a bit of tension following the big bombing. And Catherine came across a bit shrill, almost like a women's fibber. Note to reader, women's lib was a form of mass psychosis which broke out during the last 3 decades of the old era. Women affected by it denied their femininity and insisted that they were people, not women. This aberration was promoted and encouraged by the system as a means of dividing our race against itself. Everything! Every point he made in that fucking paragraph is complete wank.
Yeah, just pure concentrated dog shit
Like,
straight in the main line.
Yeah. This aberration was promoted and encouraged by the system.
It's still fought against to this day.
When you're this right wing, everything seems like
everything's the system.
Yeah,
Everything's the establishment.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't be that I'm just wrong and the majority of people don't think this way. It's the system brainwashed them all, and I'm the only one who can see the truth. It's like the turf stuff, where it's like, that's why they never ever just acknowledge that no one agrees with them.
Yeah.
No one agrees with you. You are
minority,
such a minority that no one should even be having this conversation. No one agrees with you.
George hotly protested that she was not being discriminated against, that her makeup and disguise abilities had been particularly valuable to our unit. I'm gonna do all the fun stuff, and you're gonna do all the cooking and cleaning. I'm just picking the best person for the job, right? Now, my job is to sit with my boys and drink cognac and smoke cigars.
Your job is everything else. I think you're just really good at it. Actually, it would be sexist if I thought you were bad at that stuff.
Exactly.
I think you're really good.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, they're actually really big on equality in the neo-Nazi movement.
Oh yeah, they love it.
Really
they
big
love
on
it.
that.
Henry agreed with my suggestion, and George reluctantly went along with it. I am afraid, however, that he suspects that at least part of the reason for Catherine's outburst is that she preferred to be with me rather than to be left alone for a whole day with him.
This is so transparent and pathetic.
I know, yeah.
He's invented a woman to be in love with him, and then he's had to invent a love triangle.
So
to have
he
a man that's jealous of him for having this amazing woman.
So he can cuck someone.
Yeah.
The organisation has made allowances for married couples where both man and wife were members of a unit, in that husbands have veto power over any orders given to their wives.
Because they own them.
I'm not enjoying this book.
No. Not like all the others then. October 23, 1991. This morning is my first chance to write since Catherine and I picked up the munitions in Maryland last week. Our unit has carried out 3 missions in the last 6 days. We are really into the thick of a guerrilla war now.
We are really into the thick of a guerrilla war. It sounds like dubbing. It sounds like it's a foreign film and it's been dubbed over.
Yeah, it's so like haphazard and awkwardly phrased. Oh, I guess we've just had a bunch of attacks and now we're in the middle of a guerrilla war.
Conveniently, I didn't have to write about any of that.
I haven't had to explain how the organisation came into being, what the fuck it even is, how any of this got this far. Well, also, by the way, now we're in the middle of a guerrilla war. Why worry about those things when you're writing a novel about specifically those things? Last Monday night, Henry, George and I raided the Washington Post. It was a quick thing, requiring little preparation, although we did argue for a few minutes ahead of time about the way it should be done. Henry was for going after personnel, but we ended up wrecking one of their presses instead.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Henry was to go.
Was he stroking his knife salaciously while he gave that suggestion? Henry's idea was that the 3 of us should force our way into the newsroom and editorial offices on the 6th floor of the Washington Post building and kill as many people as we could with fragmentation grenades and machine guns. We parked in an alley about 100 yards from the main entrance of the Post. As soon as George had disarmed the guard, Henry blasted a huge hole in the press room window with his sawed-off shotgun. Then I pulled the pin on the grenade mine contraption I had rigged and heaved it into the rollers of the nearest press, which was just being plated up for the night's run. We ducked behind the masonry parapet while the bomb exploded, and then Henry and I hurriedly threw half a dozen thermite grenades into the press room. We were all back in... Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what this is supposed to say, because it doesn't say what it's supposed to say. We were all back in the all before anyone had even come out onto the sidewalk, and so no one saw our car. I thought at first it would have said back in the car.
Yeah.
But then it says, and so no one saw our car, so...
back in the motor.
Cockney version.
Yeah.
We were all back in a fucking motor before any cunt had even come out on the fucking pavement, so no one saw the fucking motor fucking sitting on the fucking road, you cat.
I mean, we were saying we should fucking kill all the
We should
cats.
fucking get stuck away.
You know it's good when we have to start just
Just
making up
reeling it in
bullshit.
stupid. Catherine, of course, had done her usual magic with our faces. Like fucked up again. The next morning, the Post appeared on the streets about an hour later than usual. We had substantially damaged only one press with our bomb and smoked things up a bit with our incendiary grenades, one of which set a barrel of ink afire. But the Post had lost virtually none of its capacity for spreading its lies and venom as a result of our efforts. We were quite chagrined by this outcome. It became clear to us that we had foolishly taken a risk far out of proportion to any advantage which could have been reasonably expected. Henry's idea of attacking the Post's newsroom and editorial offices seems much better in retrospect.
So is he saying that the plan of just going in there and massacring everyone was what way more
Clearly the
strategically...
smarter one in retrospect, yeah.
Oh my god, this fucking guy.
You know, Henry is the voice of reason.
Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy is the voice of reason.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. This is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Do you think nuclear weapons are going to come into play?
I am wondering, yeah, because obviously, if you remember at the beginning, they said something about the ruins of Washington.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did. So Washington's getting nuked.
Maybe,
That's what I... Yeah,
the nukes.
the nukes are coming.
You cowardly bastard! You're not the voice of the people. I am the voice of the people. The people speak through me, not you. Came to me while I slept, Sonny. My destiny. In the middle of the night, it came to me. I must get up now, right now, and fulfill my destiny. Now you put your goddamn hand on that scanning screen, or I'll hack it off and put it on for you.
Maybe you turn a suicide bombs Washington
With a big nuke. So it'll be like the trash can man. That is basically what this is. This is basically the stand, but from the perspective of the other side, isn't it?
I am waiting for Dr. Pilliam Weir to turn up and give them a nuke and be like this really muscled guy who doesn't need glasses and has 20/20 vision and he's really sexy and all the women are just flocking to him. All the Hungarian women are flocking to him.
Just like the real Mr. William Pierce.
Yeah. After looking over the newspaper, we settled on the editorial page editor, who had written a particularly vicious editorial against us.
Oh my fucking god, that was the clumsiest sentence of it. The editorial page editor, who had edited an editorial about it. It's like, for fuck's sake, mate.
Which he then printed on his editorial page, as was his right as the editor of said editorial page. His words dripped with Talmudic hatred.
What does that even mean?
Surely Talmudic hatred would be anti-Semitic, you know? Hatred against the Talmud. Talmudic hatred.
But no, it's the hatred of the Talmud. As in,
Racists like us, he said, deserve no consideration. I would just like to point out, he did not put inverted commas on the racists there. So maybe he's finally just accepting that, I don't need to pretend I'm not. Since his editorial was an incitement to murder, it seemed to us only appropriate that he be given a taste of his own remedy. Henry and I rode a bus downtown and then waved down a taxi with a black driver. By the time we pulled up in the editor's driveway in Silver Spring, the black was in the trunk, dead.
Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen.
It's literally, he's taking a cab drive with the fucking Zodiac killer.
What
the fuck?
The black was in the trunk, dead.
They pulled the cab over and it's just the cab driver's black.
Might as well kill him.
Let's murder this guy then. And then he's like, a newspaper editor said we should be killed by the...
You should. You should be
Obviously
killed. You're going to be.
You deserve to be. He's talking about their double standard.
Yeah.
You're a fucking racist. You don't get to complain about double standards.
It's funny as well, isn't it? All this fantasy fulfillment of where you
murder everyone.
Well, in reality, who is this guy?
Yeah.
What did he do?
What did he do?
Well, he did what all of them do, which is bitch, piss, whine, and moan.
Sit around writing fucking dog shit like this and collecting money off a fucking sack.
And whining the entire time.
Yeah, he still wasn't even fucking happy.
Exactly.
With that.
I'd fucking love that if I could just zero
sit
effort,
on your ass
write some piece of shit, and a bunch of fucking imbeciles just give me money all the time.
Yeah.
And I have a compound in West Virginia. I'd fucking love that. I'd be fucking made up, you know what I mean? And all this cunt can do is whine.
Yeah. Incidentally, do check out our bookstore on Gumroad and Amazon. And check out our GoFundMe page where we're trying to get the money together to buy a West Virginian combat. I waited in the taxi while Henry rang the bell and told the woman who answered that he was delivering a package from the post and needed a signed receipt. When the sleepy-eyed editor appeared at the door in his bathrobe a few minutes later, Henry literally blew him in half with 2 blasts from the sawed-off shotgun he had been carrying under his jacket. He literally just blew him in half. The National Guard of a dozen states have been called up to reinforce local police forces, and there are now large around-the-clock guard details stationed outside every government building in Washington, the major media offices in a number of cities, and the homes of hundreds of government officials. Our biggest difficulty is that the public sees us and everything we do only through the media.
No, that's not...
What lens would you like them to see it through that you think would convince them that that was okay?
That's not direct action.
No.
That's just
Those are
serial
just crimes.
murder. You're just spree killers.
Yeah, exactly. The reality is that political violence, guess what, Mr. Pierce? It matters what your goals and intentions are. It matters what your ideology is. We are able to make ourselves enough of a nuisance so they are deluging the public with distortions, half-truths, and lies about us. For the last 2 weeks, they've been giving us a non-stop roasting, trying to convince everyone that we are the incarnation of evil, a threat to everything decent, noble, and worthwhile.
Yep.
Hate to get roasted in the group chat after slitting a cabbie's throat. Listen to this shit. What's happening now is reminiscent of the media campaign against Hitler and the Germans back in the 1940s.
Oh my god.
Yep. Stories about Hitler flying into rages and chewing carpets, phony German plans for the invasion of America, babies being skinned alive to make lampshades and then boiled down into soap, girls kidnapped and sent to Nazi stud farms. I'm sure he'll get to it, but I noticed you missed out kind of the big one.
Yeah.
You missed out the big one there.
Yeah.
Are you honestly going to actually expect anyone to believe that you think the Holocaust didn't happen and you don't fully support it? Like, you're an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
The Jews convinced the American people that those stories were true, and the result was World War II, with millions of the best of our race butchered by us, and all of Eastern and Central Europe turned into a huge communist prison camp. I love this as well, like when he says millions of the best of our race were butchered. He's talking about the Nazis. Germans. He's talking about the Nazis losing.
The best and brightest of our race were butchered in a bunker just below Berlin.
That's what he means. Yeah. We are the new Germans, and the country is being wound up psychologically to lick us. What a fucking goofball. The Jewish media have got me into the state where if I see a German, I'm gonna lick him. Thus, the system is cooperating more fully than we could have imagined in arousing the public's consciousness of our struggle. I wonder why you would use that term right there after talking about Hitler and the Germans. October 28. Last night, I had to do the most unpleasant thing that I have been called to do since joining the organisation 4 years ago. I participated in the execution of a mutineer.
I had to cook my own dinner.
Harry Powell was Unit 5's leader. Last week, when Washington Field Command gave his unit the assignment of assassinating 2 of the most obnoxious and outspoken advocates of racial mixing in this area, a priest and a rabbi, Powell refused the assignment. He was immediately placed under arrest. Powell was then given an opportunity to speak on his behalf. He did so for more than 2 hours. What he said really shook me, but it made our decision easier for all of us. His basic complaint was that all our acts of terror against the system were only making things worse by provoking the system into taking more and more repressive measures. Well, of course, we all understood that, or at least I thought we all understood it. Apparently, Powell didn't. That is, he didn't understand that one of the major purposes of political terror always and everywhere is to force the authorities to take reprisals and to become more repressive, thus alienating a portion of the population and generating sympathy for the terrorists. And the other purpose is to create unrest by destroying the population's sense of security and their belief in the invincibility of the government. As Powell continued talking, it became clearer and clearer that he was a conservative, not a revolutionary. As I listened to Powell, I was reminded of the late 19th century writer Brooks Adams.
Jesus Christ.
And his
This is a workaday guy, 1991.
No, yeah, this is definitely not
Mr.
Pierce running his mouth again. There has not been sufficient time to develop in all our people the essentially religious attitude towards our purpose and our doctrines, which would have prevented the Powell incident by screening him out early. The 8 male members present drew straws, and 3 of us, including the women, we tied his hands and feet, and then we had to gag him when he began shouting. We drove him to a wooded area off the highway about 10 miles south of Washington, shot him, and buried him. I got back a little after midnight, but I still haven't been able to get to sleep. I am very, very depressed. I was really sad. That's the closest we're going to get to, like, character development.
Of course. Yeah.
November 4, 1991. Soup and bread again tonight, and not much of that. If our pay doesn't come through in the next couple of days, we'll have to resort to armed robbery again. An unpleasant prospect. Not for Henry.
Get Henry to do it.
He's got the pay, he's been hoping they can do a robbery. It is just too dangerous to drive up to Maryland for our food supply. The chances are too great of running into a police roadblock. That is the most noticeable, and to the public it must be by far the most irritating consequence to date of our terror campaign. Yeah. It's the most irritating result of our terror campaign. Not the multiple deaths that we've caused. No, not the bombing or anything. No, none of that. None of the slashed throats and fucking blown up.
There's a lot of traffic jams lately.
Oh, the bloody traffic. I'm really very, very upset. Travel by private automobile has become, at least in the Washington area, a nightmare.
Private automobile. Fucking hell.
Oops, there go the lights again. This is the second time this evening we've had to break out the candles. Oops. Oops.
Get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid.
There have been approximately 40 grenade attacks against federal buildings and media facilities in Washington, and our unit is responsible for 11 of them. Oh, well, at least you're getting out. I know you've been feeling down lately, but it's good to keep busy. Since it is now virtually impossible to enter any federal building except a post office without a complete body search, we have had to be ingenious. You gotta stick the grenades really
Greased them up.
The greasy grenade. We lost one of our best activists yesterday.
Activists. Yeah.
That's one way of putting it. We have talked this problem over among ourselves many times. A revolutionary attitude is virtually non-existent in America. Outside the... Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just a white nationalist one isn't. Like, if you actually wanted to change and you wanted to fix the country,
you'd find
there's
plenty
so
of
many
support.
people that are ready for it. But you don't want revolution that would actually fix any of the problems for the majority of people. And so, of course, you have no popular support. Without some sort of empathy between us and the general public, we can never find enough new recruits to make up for our losses. He's bemoaning the lack of empathy now.
Blowing people in half with shotguns.
Where is the love? November 8. The last few days have seen a major change in our domestic affairs. Myself, Catherine, and Bill and Carol Hanrahan, formerly of Unit 6. Hanrahan.
Nichten Lichten.
Henry and George have teamed up with Edna Carlson, Tucker Carlson's mum. Catherine will have a chance to exercise her editorial skills again, to a limited extent, in that she will have the responsibility for transforming the typewritten propaganda we've received from the WFC into camera-ready headlines and text for Carol. Just transcribe what's been given.
Just copy that.
Yeah.
Copy what a man wrote.
Yeah. We have so far been unable to pick up an 81mm mortar for the projectiles which we grabbed in the raid on Aberdeen Proving Ground last month. One of our gun buff members, however, had a serviceable 4.2-inch mortar which he kept hidden away since the late 1940s. After he emigrated from Europe. We are now designated Unit 6, and I am in charge. Certainly the new living arrangement here is more congenial for Catherine and me, now that we are sharing our building with another married couple instead of with 2 bachelors. I just wrote another married couple, but of course that was a slip of the pen, since Catherine and I are not formally married. They're only involved in a Nazi terror. In the last 2 months, and particularly in the last 2 or 3 weeks, however, we have experienced so much together and become so dependent on one another for companionship that a bond at least as strong as that of marriage has developed between us.
At least as strong. Well, he said, they're married, we're not, but our bond is a lot stronger than theirs.
Yeah.
Also, it's really lucky that we didn't see any of that.
No need.
No need to see it now. He'll just tell us. No, it has. We've been through a lot together.
Yeah. And we're married now, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
It's about, we've lived for about a week.
Yeah.
And that's the same as a marriage.
Just go with it.
It is interesting that the organisation, which has imposed on all of us a life which is unnatural in many respects, has led to a more natural relationship between the sexes inside the organisation than exists outside. Our women are actually cherished and protected to a much larger degree than women in the general society are. Consider rape, for example.
Oh, yeah, let's consider rape.
Please, let's do that. It had already been increasing at a rate of 20 to 25% per year since the early 1970s until last year, when the Supreme Court ruled that all laws making rape a crime are unconstitutional because they presume a legal difference between the sexes.
What? What the fuck is he talking about?
Are we going to sit here and engage with that idea? What's the point? In cases where no physical injury can be proved, it is now virtually impossible to obtain a prosecution or even an arrest. Who is he about to lay this on?
Exactly. This is
black people.
Yeah, this is because of the blacks.
Feminists.
Yes.
Patriarchy is the fault of women. The women's lib groups have greeted this development with dismay. At least there's dismay among the rank and file of such groups. I have suspicion that their leaders, most of whom are Jewesses, had this outcome in mind from the beginning. Just the absolute conspiratorial, paranoid bullshit. He wants to run his mouth about, the degradation of the white man.
Yeah.
It was like, we're friends like you.
Exactly,
Mr.
Maybe
Pierce.
if you'd shut the fuck up, that would at least help, wouldn't it?
Gangs of black thugs hang around parking lots and school playgrounds and roam the corridors of office buildings and apartment complexes looking for any attractive, unescorted white girl, and knowing that punishment either from the disarmed citizenry or the handcuffed police is extremely unlikely. Gang rapes in school classrooms have become an especially popular news sport. Some particularly liberal women may find that this situation provides a certain amount of satisfaction for their masochism, a way of atoning for their feelings of racial guilt. But for normal white women, it is a daily nightmare. Like, he's saying that liberal women
know what he's saying.
want to be raped.
Yeah. This guy is sick, man. This guy is really, really
And again, this is a guy who abandoned his children and his family and was neglectful at best and emotionally and physically abusive at worst. That's
shocking.
Yeah,
I would never have seen
never
that
expected that. But he's a real puritanical when it comes to sexual propriety and behaviour. You treat women with respect and have respect for family values. There have even been instances of integrated rape gangs recently. That's his problem. His problem with the rape gang is that they were mixed race. Nor have the girls remained entirely passive. Sexual debauchery of every sort on the part of white men and women, and even children in their pre-teens, has reached a level which would have been unimaginable only 2 or 3 years ago.
Children in their pre-teens.
Yep.
That's what he wants to start talking about.
So it's like we've gone from it's mass rapes and rapes in the classroom to now it's getting onto what he really is talking about, which is he feels that children are coming onto him sexually because he wants to abuse them. Here we go. The queers, the fetishists, the mixed race couples, the sadists,
the mixed race couples,
and the exhibitionists, urged on by the mass media, are parading their perversions in public. And the public is joining them.
This is fucking unreal. Like, it's really gone off the deep end now.
I mean, get these spikes. Dips where we just drop into the fucking Mariana Trench. Horse piss. The mass media egging them on, Won't someone please think of the right-wing evangelical Christians? Just last week, when Catherine and I went into the district to pick up the salaries for our unit, which finally came through when we were down nearly to our last can of soup, there was a nasty little incident. While we were waiting on it's like, he goes through these like tableaus of these fantasies. That's it. That's the book. It's like how People's Republic was a little guided tour where Schlichter could just stop and run his mouth. That's like almost exactly what
it is. Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you, this is what I'd have done.
Yes.
And now, I would have said something brilliant, and they all would have clapped and thought it was funny. Yeah. A woman would have run up to me and married me on the spot. While we were waiting at a bus stop for a homeward bound bus, I decided to run into a drugstore a few feet away to buy a newspaper. I was gone for no more than 20 seconds, but when I came back, a greasy-looking youth, approximately white, but with the afro hairstyle popular among young degenerates, was taunting Catherine with obscenities while dancing and weaving around her like a boxer. Again, we'll just add this one to the list of shit that absolutely never happens to anyone. It's just these fantasies. Where, again, just like with Kurt, where it's just like, here's a fantasy where I get to just murder a bunch of people indiscriminately. His fantasies are kind of more deranged, but they're also far less established in the narrative. The narrative has always been secondary in all of these books, but this, like, more than ever, it is like not even like fourth or fifth. It's like
I was gonna say the narrative comes second or possibly third. You know what I mean? It's not even second. It's like
that's why so much of it is just and a bunch of this stuff happened anyway. But then there was the bit where I got to beat up a black kid in the street. And it's like. I think the notes to the reader stuff are actually some of the worst parts, where it's like here to educate. Note to the reader: Afro refers to the Negro or African race, which, until its sudden disappearance during the Great Revolution, exerted an increasingly degenerative influence on the culture and lifestyles of the inhabitants of North America.
What, the Cherokee and the Apache? This guy's
the
fuck. I really don't like.
No, you're not warming up to him.
I'm really not. No. But I think we should take a little blind drunk pilgrimage to wherever he's been fucking buried.
Whatever fucking drainage pipe has stuffed his fucking.
And I think we should piss in it.
Take a shit in his skull. This is the important thing to remember. This is where their racism comes from. All the other shit that you see from Schlichter, Shapiro, Johnson obviously did it. Segal is obviously usually the outlier in all this, just because of how fucking weird he is. Racial obsessions.
It's like he is racist, but in a very different way.
They absolutely believe in that social contagion stuff of the Nazis, and the idea that the presence of other races has a inherently negative impact just by them being there. And again, one of the instances here, as we've seen before, where he's willing to actually just say that out loud, where the others will dance around. What they mean is change is bad, and that
I don't like blacks.
Exactly, like with Starkey, with his white people are turning black. Not literally, we're not physically changing, are we? But we've become like blacks, which can only be bad, right? Here we go, here's the little wish fulfillment fight scene where he gets to beat up some kid in the street.
Excellent.
I grabbed him by the shoulder, spun him around, and hit him in the face as hard as I could. As he went down,
which wasn't very hard.
He laughed and punched me back. As he went down, I had the deep, primitive satisfaction of seeing 4 or 5 of his teeth washing out of his shattered mouth in a copious flow of dark red blood. I reached into my pocket for my pistol, fully intending to kill him on the spot. But Catherine seized my arm and caution returned. Instead of shooting him, I straddled him and directed 3 kicks at his groin with all my strength. He jerked convulsively and emitted a short, choking scream with the first kick, and then he lay still. Passers-by averted their eyes and hurried on. Across the street, 2 blacks gawked and hooted. Catherine and I hurried around the corner. We walked about 6 blocks, then doubled back and caught the bus at another stop. When we got back to the shop, Henry and another man were waiting for us. When they left, they took the mortar with them. I still don't know what they will use it for. Catherine and I are both very fond of Henry, and we will miss his presence in our new unit. Very
very fond
He's
of
such a
Henry.
lovely
Yeah,
guy.
it's just a psycho fucking murderer. Oh, we're very
Fun
fond
at
of
parties. He is the kind of person on whom the success of the organisation will ultimately depend. I mean, he's not lying.
No, that is true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. November 9, 1991. What a day. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, an extraordinary session of the Congress convened to hear an address by the President. The capital had been surrounded by somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 secret policemen and armed, uniformed soldiers. Jeeps with mounted machine guns were everywhere. There were even 2 tanks and several APCs. Helicopters whirred overhead. No band of guerrillas bent on sabotage or assassination could have gotten within 2 blocks of the place. Then, as the TV cameras were preparing to switch from the crowded scene outside the Capitol to the Speaker's podium in the House chamber, a mortar round, although no one realised that's what it was, exploded about 200 yards northwest of the building. For the next few seconds there was general confusion. Soldiers with gas masks on were scurrying in one direction, while grim-faced secret policemen with drawn pistols were running in the other direction.
Well, at least general confusion's there, you know.
Yeah,
Take charge and keep everybody calm.
3-star general confusion. It's our mortar! I shouted.
He's starstruck.
Yeah. It's our mortar!
I can't believe it's my mortar. Wow.
It's our mortar riffing those
Yeah.
persons to shreds. Mortars are marvellous little weapons, especially for guerrilla warfare. They drop their deadly rounds silently and almost vertically onto their target. They can be fired from total cover, and persons in the target area cannot tell from which direction the projectiles are coming. In this case, I guessed immediately that our people...
Whoa! We have to get a counter going.
Yeah, that's one. In this case, I guessed immediately that our people were firing from a secluded, densely wooded area on the west bank of the Potomac. Just over...
Very specific. guess.
Very specific thing to instantly guess. I guessed immediately that a man named Sam had fired them. They had the range now, and the projectiles began raining down at 4 to 5 second intervals. We saw beautiful blossoms of flame and steel sprouting everywhere, dancing across the asphalt, thundering in the midst of splintered masonry and burning vehicles, erupting now inside and now outside the Capitol, wreaking their bloody toll in the ranks of tyranny and treason. How much he seems to perk up when he's writing about this.
Yeah.
Like, again, he calls himself a patriot, you know, the American Nazi, the National Alliance.
Yeah.
But you want to destroy the nation.
Yeah, 100%.
What an impression it must have made on the general public watching it on TV. Yeah, they must have loved that.
Well, general public was there as well.
An hour earlier in New York, the organisation used a bazooka to shoot down an airliner which had just taken off for Tel Aviv with a load of vacationing dignitaries, mostly Jews. There were no survivors. Note to the reader, a bazooka was a portable launcher for small rockets used primarily as an infantry weapon against armoured vehicles during World War II. 60 to 54 BNE and already obsolete by 8 BNE. Tel Aviv was the largest city in Palestine during the period of Jewish occupation of that unfortunate country in the old era. The ruins of the city are still too radioactive for human habitation. So is he on the Palestinian side?
Well, of course he is, because it's Jews, isn't it?
I guess
He's
that
woke.
he hates Jews. He's woke. Yeah. The turn of the Irish is too woke.
Too woke. Just been this shit. Like that. It's irradiated, right?
Yeah, the ruins of the city are still too radioactive for human
So
habitation.
we were talking about the nukes.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it, a world war, do you think?
I don't know, yeah, I was kind of, I guess, hoping that the ruins of Washington would have been caused just by this group just fucking planting it. But, yeah, maybe a world war.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if they take over,
Yeah.
if they kill
Yeah.
the government in a bombing in Washington and take power, they've got the
And
nukes,
then
so they're
nuke
gonna
Israel,
just
yeah.
shoot a
Oh,
nuke
yeah, just be
straight
like the
in.
first thing they do is nuke
Yeah.
Israel. Oh, God, these
Probably,
people are
isn't it?
sick, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're so
This is his
so
fantasy.
sick. Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
of
his
course,
fantasy.
yeah. Holy shit. Well, the nukes are already in the air. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Oh god. What's happened really is like his arrogance hasn't allowed him to consider the flaws in what he's done, and so obviously all of his own personal failings have just come out on the page.
Yes,
And
yeah.
his obvious lack of imagination, his lack of empathy, his lack of connection with humanity
Yeah.
has just come out in spades.
It's so obvious,
Yeah.
isn't it? It reads like a fucking psych exam, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can almost
evaluation.
tell. Yeah. You can almost tell all of the fucking
Yeah,
like
the
mental
different
conditions that he has just by reading this, you know? All in all, it has been a busy day for the organisation. I am greatly invigorated by these demonstrations of our capacity for launching multiple simultaneous strikes against the system. The great weakness of the system is its utter moral corruption, says a man who lives with a paedophile. As for the public, it's a little early yet to know what the spectrum of their reactions to today's exploits will be. Most of them, of course, will believe just what they're told to believe. Basically, they want to be left alone with their beer and their television sets. Well, I mean, that's kind of fair enough, isn't it? It's like, if that's if it's a choice between beer and a television set or joining a fucking Nazi militia, they're like, you know what I mean? Prick. Their mentality is a reflection of the movie fan magazines and the TV sitcoms with which the system keeps them saturated.
He's gonna start ranting about I Love Lucy in a minute.
I think he might. Note to the reader, the word sitcom apparently refers to a type of television programme popular during the last years of the old era. Of all the segments of the population from which we had hoped to draw new members, the conservatives and right-wingers have been the biggest disappointment. They are the world's worst conspiracy mongers, and also the world's greatest cowards. Well, we can agree on that. And you are one of them, by the way, Mr. Pierce. You are a right-winger.
You're
And a coward, and a conspiracy monger,
coward.
yeah, and a
Okay.
paedophile.
Right, yeah.
In fact, their cowardice is exceeded only by their stupidity.
A moment of introspection.
The current conspiracy theory being circulated among conservatives is that the organisation is actually in the pay of the system. We are hired provocateurs whose job is to raise enough hell to justify the repressive, counter-revolutionary and anti-racist measures the system is taking. This is almost touching on reality here.
Pierce was accused of being an FBI agent at one point, so it's possible that he was trying to beat the allegations here. He actually was
Getting
on the
out
tape.
ahead of them, right?
Yeah, he was on the tape.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he
They
was.
never fucking did anything. They all got nicked. He was ratting them all out the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, would that surprise you?
No, not at all.
The Christians are a mixed bag. Well, you can say that again. Some of them are among our most devoted and courageous members. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Their hatred of the system is based on their recognition of the system's role in undermining and perverting Christendom. Christendom.
He's going to start talking about the Jewry in a minute.
Yeah. But all the ones who are still affiliated with major churches are against us. The Jewish takeover of the Christian churches and corruption of the ministry are now virtually complete.
We're getting very close to Seagal's, like, the cartels run.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. He hates Christians because they're Jewish. That's incredible. Playing 4D chess. I can see why people rate this guy so highly.
Life is uglier and uglier these days. More and more Jewish. That's what it said.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah,
said.
the way everything has to just be like, badness is racial. Like, if a thing is bad, it has Jewish characteristics.
Yeah.
It's so like 18th century, so childlike and ridiculous.
Another thing I talked to Henry about is the rash of relatively minor bombings which have occurred in the last 2 or 3 days. Henry confirmed my suspicions. The bombings, at least those in this area, are not the work of the organisation. We seem to have unintentionally galvanised some of the latent anarchists or God knows what who have been lurking in the woodwork. The media, of course, have been attributing everything to us, which is embarrassing in view of the amateurishness.
Amateurish? Yeah, because you wouldn't be caught dead. Like, smashing someone over the back of the head with a bomb. Panicking and then watching as your mate slashes their throat in the middle of a fucking shop and then has to have a fucking fight with the guy's elderly wife. Amateurishness, yeah, okay.
Today I had a rather interesting experience myself in this regard. Oh good, I'm sure he's about to tell us all about it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
I had to go into Georgetown to take care of a minor communications problem for Unit 4.
Jesus, that's Mr. Pierce shining through there a little bit too strong.
Georgetown, once the most stylish area of Washington, has succumbed in the last 5 years to the same plague which has turned the rest of the nation's capital into an asphalt jungle. Most of the high-priced shops have given way to gay bars, massage parlours, porn stalls, liquor stalls, and similar capitalist ventures.
Oh my god, I love it. Just like
Gay bars.
hundreds of gay bars. The whole city is just, all the houses are all gone. They're all replaced with gay bars.
The once fashionable townhouses have their windows boarded up now, but many are occupied by colonies of squatters, mostly young dropouts and runaways. They lead a marginal, brutal existence, begging for handouts in the streets, rummaging through trash bins for leftovers, occasionally stealing. Sounds like,
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a different group of people I could name, except they aren't killing anybody. So, you know.
Some of the girls engage in casual prostitution. Virtually all of them, or so I thought until today, keep themselves in a permanently drugged condition. Since the system stopped enforcing the drug laws last year, heroin has been about as cheap and easy to get as cigarettes.
They just stopped enforcing.
They
They didn't get rid of them.
Yeah, they just stopped enforcing.
Every heroin for everyone. Gay bars and heroin as far as I can see. I love also the way he says casual prostitution, as if he would respect it more if they took it more seriously.
If they had more of a work ethic.
Yeah.
The cops generally leave them alone. Yeah, famously the cops generally leave those sorts of people alone, don't they?
They're too busy going after the rich white people.
Yeah.
Who built this great nation.
Inside their strongholds, the boarded up building in which they cook and eat and sleep and make love and give birth and pump dope into their veins and die, they seem to have reverted to a pre-civilized lifestyle.
Yeah, that's pre-civilization. That's what they used to do.
Yeah.
That's what cavemen used to do. They'd hang up in abandoned buildings and
in Washington
cook and eat and have babies and inject drugs in themselves. Yeah, that's what happened. Fucking moron.
Kooky religious cults.
Yeah, we got a name?
I'll just leave that one hanging there.
Got a name, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe Mr. Pierce? Maybe Cosmo, what we could say, Cosmotheism, maybe we could call it. That sounds good, doesn't it?
Oh god, here we go. Various brands of Satan worship, reminiscent of the ancient Semitic cults.
What? Oh my god! Oh, of course, so the Jews are demonic, of course.
Of course, yeah. So Satan worship is actually a form of Judaism.
Judaism is, Fuck me. And then he's going on about the conspiracy mongers.
He's a fucking
now he's saying
lunatic.
the Jews are all demons.
Ritual torture and ritual murder are rumoured to take place.
Of course he's in on the whole satanic
exactly. It's like,
paranoid.
I'm saying, it's like, oh yeah, of course he believes in all that shit as well, and oh yeah, of course he believes in that. Ritual torture and ritual murder are rumoured to take place, as well as ritual cannibalism, ritual sex orgies, and other non-Western practices. Non-Western?
Like, again, he just has to racialise everything.
Yeah.
He rants and rants, and then he just gets to the root of what he's actually saying, which is I don't like black people and Jews. None of that is actually happening.
No.
What I mean is, Italian immigrants are allowed to live here. You know?
Oh god. I'd finished my chore for Unit 4 and was headed back to the bus stop when I came across an all too familiar incident.
It's just the same thing again. He's going back to the bus stop. And
And it's...
We're just gonna do it again.
Two young thugs, they looked like Puerto Ricans or Mexicans, were struggling on the sidewalk with a red-headed girl trying to pull her into a doorway. A prudent citizen would have passed by without interfering, but I stopped, watched for a moment, and then started towards the struggling trio. The two swarthy males were distracted just enough by my approach to give the girl a chance to break free. They glared at me and shouted a few obscenities, but they did not try to catch the girl, who quickly put 100 feet or so between herself and her would-be abductors. I turned and went on my way. The girl walked slowly, allowing me to catch up to her. "Thanks," she said, flashing me a warm smile. She was really quite pretty, but very shabbily dressed and no older than 17. Obviously one of Georgetown's street people. I don't like where this is heading.
Yeah, he's gonna recruit her into his fucking very Western Nazi orgy cult.
Yeah, that isn't cultish or satanic in any way.
God, no.
I chatted with her as we walked along. One of the first pieces of information I elicited from her was that she had not eaten in 2 days and was very hungry. We stopped at a sidewalk diner and I bought her a hamburger and a milkshake. milkshake. After that, she was still hungry, so I bought another hamburger and some french fries for her. I think he's grooming her.
Yes, kind of sounds like it, yeah.
While she ate, we talked, and I learned several interesting things. One was that life among the dropouts is more diversified than I had thought. There are colonies which are on drugs and colonies which strictly abstain from drugs. Colonies, yeah. Colonies,
They're fucking bacteria.
colonies which are racially mixed and all white colonies. Sexually balanced colonies and all male wolf packs. The groups are also divided along religious cult lines.
What the fuck? This guy is deranged. Like, what the fuck is he
Yeah, he
talking
is,
about?
yeah.
Oh my god.
This chapter, I think,
Yeah.
it's fully
Yeah,
broken
it's
down, hasn't it?
really,
It's
yeah,
really,
really
taken a
fucking-
nosedive.
yeah.
He's obviously not feeling well when he wrote this.
Yeah, fucking amazing.
With your feet on the air, your head on the ground. Try this trick and spin it. Yeah. Your head will collapse if there's nothing in it, and you'll ask yourself, where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Love Jordan Peterson, he's so good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a really clever guy.
Yeah, you can tell by how fucking dumb he is.
Yeah, you can tell by how much raw meat.
Yeah. You can tell by the fact that he was in a medically induced coma in a gulag.